Hey guys, welcome back to Singing with Professor Vass. It's our second week. Today we're going to do a slightly more challenging lip trill in the workout. We're also going to do an E vowel middle builder to warm ourselves up and maybe a little bit of fun at the end. So stick around and let's keep singing. So we're going to start with just our little warm-up. So what we want to do, a little bit of physical body work, get your body and your mind ready to start singing. So we're going to start in a seated position today. When we sit for singing, which is frequently when we're doing choral music or other rehearsals, you want to be really mindful of a seated posture. So your feet are going to be planted firmly on the floor. Hopefully you'll have a 90-degree bend at your knee. You can usually achieve a nice straight spine with a slight curvature at the lower lumbar area if you are either seated toward the front of your seat or leaning up really far against a nice flat back. Hard surfaces that we're sitting on are always a better plan when we're practicing seated singing. A couple things to keep in mind. First of all, we want to find our ischial bones. How do we do that? Take our hands, we're going to sit on those hands, rock back and forth a little bit from side to side, find those bones in our bum, and put them in contact with the hard surface. You want to think about those like they're the base of a triangle. Having your coccyx bone at the base of your spine be the tip of that triangle. So you want to think about the breath in this position filling the triangle in your pelvis. So you're going to inhale, low breath, exhale. Take a few moments to really feel the inhalation and the exhalation in this position. Now, it may take you a second or two to get used to that posture and that breath dropping nice and low. It's really common for you to have some feelings of stopping and starting in this position as you're breathing that low abdominal breath in the seated position. But take your time. Allow the breath to regulate and to think about dropping that diaphragm lower and lower and lower. Invite yourself to breathe into that lower body, particularly that triangle that you're making with the coccyx bones and the ischial bones. From here, you're going to roll your shoulders back nice and slowly. Just do a few shoulder rolls back. A few shoulder rolls forward. Pull your shoulders up. Drop them back. Inhale into the rib cage. Expand through the ribs. Relax. Another nice deep breath, expanding the rib cage. And then you'll pull your shoulders up. Drop them forward. Now you're leaning over your thighs and creating a curve in your back and inhaling and stretching the back body. Really get a nice stretch as you inhale. This is an especially good breath for those people who are playing and singing piano. So you're going to want to be able to use not just that diaphragmatic breath in the lower body, but really using the back breath for people who are singing and playing at the same time. Next thing you're going to do is lift your shoulders one more time. Drop them and find that nice neutral posture where your sternum is nice and tall, your shoulders are down and back. And again, you're in that seated position, so you're thinking about the relationship of the lower spine to those ischial bones and feeling yourself balanced properly between both of them. Ischial bones, by the way, also called your sits bones. So the next thing we're going to do today, like we always do in our workouts, is we're going to start with lip trill. Today we're going to do alternating staccato and legato. So the first exercise is going to be a nice low breath. Inhale, abdomen extends. For those of you who are working on the supported breath, you're going to engage the lower core muscles to support the sound. For those of you who are just trying to get the direction of the breath, just remember as you inhale, the abdomen goes out. And as you exhale and sing, the abdomen comes in. So that's all you want to think about if you're doing that first level of singing. So you inhale, abdomen comes out, exhale, singing while you're exhaling, abdomen will come in, trying to get that process nice and regular and standard. For those of you who are working at a slightly more advanced level, you want to think about inhaling, engaging the lower abdominal muscles, and really supporting the sound as you sing. So we're going to do the legato just that way. For those of you who are a little bit more advanced and want to move on to that staccato breath, we're going to work that drop breath in the staccato. And we're going to alternate both of those things. So we're doing a slightly more advanced exercises here. So how does the staccato work? Well, you're going to inhale, expand that lower breath. I like to keep my thumbs on my belly button, make a triangle, and that way I know where I'm aiming for when I'm inhaling to push that triangle out. You're going to inhale, expand, leave the triangle out, and then you're going to pulse, bringing the abdomen in a little bit every single time that you sing and refill. So it's going to look like this. Inhale. So what you'll see is there's a little bit of daylight between my hands and my abdomen when I am lip trilling. So the abs are coming in slightly and then refilling. So you fill up completely at the beginning, abs in, refill, abs in, refill, abs in, refill. Those are the mechanics we're working in. One, the legato, where you're inhaling nice low breaths, support and engage, sing on that support. The other one where we're inhaling, in, out, in, out, in, out. And both in the same exercise. So we're going to keep a relatively standard tempo between both of them, but we're going to alternate staccato, legato. Here's how that looks. Good. Now, if you did that right, your abs should be a little bit sore. If your abs are not a little bit sore, then work a little harder. Isometric contraction is all on the responsibility of the person who's doing it. If you want a good workout, you have to think and work a little bit harder. It's as simple as that. Okay, so the next one we always do in the order of operations for a good workout is an application for resonance. So we start with that stretch, or we start with the body work, the physiology work. We move into the lip trill, working the breath, and then the next exercise always says hello to adding some resonance and sound to that breath. So what we're going to do today, like frequently I like to do, is an eval middle voice based exercise that moves a little bit, that gets the vocal folds adapting and reacting to the breath. So we're going to start today with the E. A little bit of a syncopation, it's kind of a fun one. If you're doing a classical exercise, then you can keep the resonant space nice and round and full. If you're doing musical theater, you can bring that forward. So for the classical singers, it's going to be. For my contemporary music singers, for my musical theater singers or my pop singers, they can go a little bit more forward with that sound and let it be. It'll feel a little bit more like a riff. For our classical singers, it'll feel a little bit more legato and stable and round. So we're looking for consistency for that classical singer. One thing to keep in mind when we're doing this exercise is I want that E vowel, which means the tongue tip is going to touch the bottom of the front teeth. Sides of the tongue are going to come up to touch the bottom of the top teeth as we sing E. And the jaw is not going to have much movement at all. First of all, we're not shifting vowels, and even if we were, I'd still ask you not to move your jaw too much. And we're not going into a range that's going to require you to open your mouth massively. It should be very much in a conversational space. So again, we're doing that E vowel, middle voice, warm up, bringing the resonance to that nice low breath. So, and again, we're staying with that nice low abdominal breath. So the breath is still going to inhale, and for those of you working on the support system, engage as you sing. Relatively close in space, all the steps were stepwise motion, and it was only the range of about a fifth. We're going to do the next exercise that's going to have a slightly larger range and involve some skipping around too. So the next exercise is going to be ya. Now that one's kind of challenging to do through the middle voice, especially for those sopranos out there. So if you want to make the alteration and sing, that'll be a lot easier, especially through the lower middle part of the range. As we go higher, the A's a lot easier. So you can split the difference too and sing E for a little bit and switch to A later on if you want. totally up to you. Play around with it and see where you're at with that technique. Sometimes my hands forget what key I'm in, so I'm going to apologize for that. It happens every now and again. So anyway, just listen to my voice. Hopefully that one's more accurate pretty much all the time. In addition, the next one we're going to do is going to keep with that movement of the sound, but we're going to do an inversion. So we're going to start at the top of the range and come down. In this exercise, we're going to play with alternating our vowels. So what I want from you is to really concentrate on the fact that I'm just asking for the tongue vowel, or the tongue vowel actually only. I'm not doing any lip vowels in this. We're going to do ah and e. Ah, e. So the jaw really shouldn't play too much of a part in alternating those vowels. Keep the tongue really active. So with the E vowel, remember we're taking the tongue tip, touching the bottom of the front teeth, bringing the sides up to touch the bottom of the top teeth. And then when we sing ah, we're releasing the sides of the tongue down. So we get ah, e, or e, ah. And we're alternating between those two vowels in this exercise. Exercise goes like this. I do what I like to do frequently, whereas I start not at the apex on either end, not at the top of either end or the bottom of either end, but I like to start sometimes in the middle of where I want to work the range. Go down lower, come back up past my starting point, and then eventually make my way back to that original starting point. And I do that because music isn't usually set up that we always live within one specific range and we only go to this top and every single time we go one direction. We're constantly having to be dynamic in our movements and singing. And I don't mean dynamic in terms of quiet and loud, which we have to be that as well. But I mean dynamic in terms of how we are moving the voice and the range in all different directions at all different times. So I like to make my exercise do that as well. So it's mimicking the challenges that you're going to have in your repertoire. And usually what I find is when you're doing workouts that mimic the challenges that you find in your repertoire, you're going to be much more successful in that repertoire because the application is going to be much more suited to the work you're doing, or I should say, the work you're doing is more suited to the application. And the application is really what we want, that really fabulous singing. So the last exercise we're going to do today is opening up the chest, warming up the bottom. So we're just going to do a nice simple we're relaxing through the larynx, finding that nice low range. Well, thanks so much for singing with me today. If you have any questions or you have some technical issues you'd like to see me address next week or the following week, please feel free to either shoot me an email. Many of you know you can find me at my CLU email address, or you can also find me on Facebook at Heidi Vass, HeidiVass. So just shoot me a little message and say, hey, Professor Vass, send me some info on this, or how do you deal with that? I'm having trouble with this piece. And I'd be happy to address it in one of my upcoming online lessons or online videos. That'd be fabulous. If you need anything in the meantime, you know where to find me. And also, don't forget, just keep singing.